what do you like? So any other guys that you're looking at, Alan, as far as like stash? I know you mentioned Hassan Haskins. We talked about Matt talked about Justice Hill, Rasheen Lee. Yeah.
I'll lightning round a quick list, and then you can focus on whatever one, if at all. So here's the guys that I looked across for in preparation for this. I said, who did I add over the last like week or two to the last spot or the last couple spots of my roster? And these are guys that actually were available in like my 25, 30 deeps. Okay. So what's the dude on the line's name? Sione Vaki. You know,
that's as close of a pronunciation as I've ever heard. I could.
So Carson Steele, you mentioned Emmanuel Wilson, Hassan Haskins, Kenny McIntosh, who's the RB3 on Seattle. And we all know that neither one of those guys have ever stayed healthy. You said you like Seattle's offense a little bit there. A little bit deeper, I Blake Watson, he made the team in Denver. And then I started adding back Cody Schrader, who is on the Rams practice squad, or the RB4 at this point. So those guys haven't stayed, Kyren Williams hasn't stayed healthy. We'll see about, Schrader's the kind of guy, if he gets a shot in week 11, you're going to want to start him, right, in that offense. So those are the guys. And then we talked about Jimmy G. Kobe Parkinson was on a few waiver wires.
Yep.
Wow.
So I know I threw a million names out there, but those are the guys I've added in the last, 10 days.
Parkinson was on my list. Was surprised to see his ownership the way it was, just given how kind of the high stakes side of the fantasy community has been talking about him throughout the process. And Tyler Higbee's been absent for a while, is going to continue to be absent for a while. So that situation was perplexing. He was somebody who I would imagine was rostered a lot more frequently, but I scooped him up in a league this morning, actually, that I didn't realize he was available in.
He's a name that's failed already for fantasy. You know what I'm saying? That's why. He's an ugly name. I mean, look, there's no running backs on any rosters. I see Ty Johnson out there, right? In a bunch, like nobody wants that guy, but he's the RB3 in Buffalo, right? Another guy that's like failed a million times. Now we all are you're right though. The thing about Parkinson is he's being talked about on a lot of podcasts and social media. Who's the dude? Jeremy McNichols. He's the RB3 on Washington. Like, he might get a week, so nobody wants him.
No. No, exactly.
No, he's available.
And then on the same team, well, not Washington, but on the Rams, going back to Colby Parkinson, there another rostership stat that surprised me was that Jordan Whittington is rostered more than Demarcus Robinson.
Well, shiny new toy, right?
Shiny new toy. Exactly.
This year's Puka Nacua. It's easy to make the count.
Demarcus Robinson all year in best ball has been one of my favorite late round targets in Dynasty. If I have the roster room to make him work, I'm trying to get him added just because we saw that stretch last year. Granted, yes, I know it was a small sample size, but he was performing really well, and not just a wide receiver 3, a wide receiver 2. So you're going to know if that's in the realm of possibility. 40% of Dynasty leagues, he's available. And within the first couple of weeks, he's not going to be a clogger. You're going to know pretty early on if something's there. And I still think he's a good stash too, because Puka Nacua had his knee injury. Cooper Kupp has his injuries that have been lingering. So a fragile situation is being inserted to, and we saw with heavy targets last year and a red zone role, he was very valuable for fantasy teams.
Seth, how insane will Dynasty and Twitter be going when Jordan Whittington has an 8 for 80 and a touchdown in week 1, and all the Puka Nacua stuff? People be trading him for first round picks.
Can it please be Demarcus Robinson, please?
Well, we've already know what he is. He's just good because he's in the system. Whittington, people actually like him. There's hype on him.
I hate to say this, Alan, but I was actually on Jordan Whittington before he was a thing.
I salute you. I was not. I'm a Johnny come lately. But will you let me on the bus? That's all I want to know.
I believe that there's a player profiler video that I made back in, I think, March. Jordan, I could be wrong on the date, but
before he got drafted,
Whittington was owned in 10% of leagues.
Yeah.
No, it was after the draft.
Had to be after the draft.
My favorite
that would
thing
have been a real
is that
sicko.
My favorite thing, Matt, is that Seth just took a victory lap before it actually happened. Hasn't even happened yet.
Yeah, he's like that 8 for 80 that's gonna happen. I called it.
I'm doing the Puka Nakua thing before it
Right.
happens. So
I got you.
yeah.
No,
So
he's one
anyway,
of those
but you're
guys
right.
though, where if it goes well early on, like we're gonna have all those debates again. Should you trade him for a second? Then he does it again. Should we trade him for a first? Like, do you remember the insanity over the first 3 weeks with Puka? That was like, you saw him people were calling me a sucker because I bought him for a second, and then the people were calling you a sucker because you bought him for a single first. Like
Yeah.
it was Bitcoin. It was Bitcoin.
Yeah.
It kept going up.
Yeah, Puka Nakua was Bitcoin, like a second-round pick for Puka Nakua. Now he's a first-round pick in redraft, like early second-round pick in redraft.
In startup, right? He's wide receiver like 8 or something like that.
Crazy. I mean, that's the ultimate. Has there ever been a fantasy stash better than Puka Nakua? Like if you got him, he's got to be the best fantasy
Superflex.
Yeah, that's another good one.
Puka's better, but I'm just there was a couple Brock Purdy, stick him in the 5th round, Superflex. I mean, that's kind of like they were thinking of Brock Purdy even worse than people think about like Spencer Rattler right now, right? Like Brock Purdy was like, hey, that is complete garbage.
There's in my corner of the world, I play in Superflex leagues with more casual fantasy players, and you would be surprised just at how quarterbacks are actually valued. In some of these Superflex leagues. Like I got Brock Purdy in a Superflex Dynasty league off the waiver wire. A couple weeks into the season.
Of the year he blew up, or this year?
Of the year he blew up.
Oh, okay. I was just saying
of his rookie year. But still, like he was a backup quarterback in that situation that, nobody decided to want to make the roster room for. And that's a situation that's happening too. Like there are going to be guys that don't have, like there could be leagues where not Bo Nix, but Spencer Rattler, like there's going to be leagues where Spencer Rattler isn't on a roster right now.
I've correct. Yeah. If you don't have taxi, your 20 in your FFPC stuff that you're talking about, Seth, that is going to be, Rattler's gone. He's gone.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah. So some other players that I have here, and again on my sicko list here, I of course I think it's worth mentioning Samaje Perine. I looked it up yesterday. He's rostered in 55% of sleeper leagues. I think that's insane. He should be rostered in at least 70 or 80%, if not all. Like
check that tomorrow after the waivers run. I bet you it goes up because he was that was if your waivers only runs like once a week or something like that. So I bet you that number goes up to 70%.
Yeah. So I just a PSA really at this point.
Yes.
If he's sitting on your waivers, you got to pick him up. Emmanuel Wilson, same story. His, like when I started doing my research for this show, he was at like 50%. He's up to 59, 60% last time I checked. So
pick one of those guys. If you have room for one, who you taking?
Oh man, probably Perine, because I think his role is a little bit more solidified in that Chiefs backfield. I know he's got Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but I think Marshawn Lloyd's really good. So if Marshawn Lloyd's healthy, then I think Emmanuel Wilson's for sure the RB3, whereas I think it could be a battle between Perine and CEH. I've not been inspired from what I've seen from CEH over the last few seasons. So what
happened with CEH? He's got like PTSD from an incident, and I've only heard drips and drabs. Does anybody know what that is?
Yeah, it was PTSD from his rookie season.
Ah, very good.
Sorry,
that was good.
No joke.
Oh no, but
demonetization is going to be coming from you this time. Yeah,
we don't monetize. So,
oh, I didn't know that. Hold on one second.
Not yet.
Let me get the strippers and the hookers.
Hold on one second.
Zaslowski's got a button he can press. So it's not demonetized.
I'm telling you. No. All right. Now I'm loosened up here. But yeah, no. So both of you guys, Perine for both over Emmanuel Wilson.
I think so.
It's crazy, right? I mean, what is he? 28 years old. It's so crazy.
Yeah, 28. I would have told you straight up right now he was 32. Like if you said 28, I was like, that's funny. Giving him a few years.
He's that kid in middle school that had the full beard.
Yeah.
There was always one.
Oh yeah. So another interesting situation that I think is Indianapolis, because right now, as far as I know, Trey Sermon's the backup running back. and he's rostered again, according as of one day ago, in 50% of sleeper leagues. Trey Sermon was rostered. It's probably gone up at this point, but the RB3, who is widely available and who is somebody that I've been interested in for a long, long time, is Tyler Goodson. Not just because he plays for Iowa, but because he has a really interesting profile, really athletic, pass catching chops as well in that Indianapolis offense. It's got a really good, I think, a really good offensive line. So what do we think, guys? Trey Sermon, Tyler Goodson, any interest there?
Evan Hole.
Still on the Evan Hole to hype train?
I still believe. It felt really quick.
He's on the practice,
quick
squad,
aside.
right?
Like, yeah, that whole him getting cut and everything felt quick, but also probably pretty damning, right? Like it got a rookie contract. He's a 4th round pick. He was
something like that.
3 or 4, no lower than 4.
No, it was 4. It was day 3.
Yeah. 4th round pick. Year after he suffers a knee injury early on, doesn't really get much time, already cut and on the practice squad. As much as I loved Evan Hole coming out, that's not a very good sign. If Trey Sermon has made it around the block and is the stronghold in the RB2 there, as gross as the old Matt would make the mistake of saying, no, Trey Sermon sucks. I know he sucks. I'm smarter than the Colts. And I'm going to avoid him like the plague because he stinks. But I thought that about Zach Moss too. And he did the same thing in Indianapolis. So that's why the key theme is me, just throw your priors aside with these guys. Like if Trey Sermon's the RB2, screw it. He's the RB2. I'm going to treat him like it.
That is the question. That, as gross as that sounds, who could be next year's like Zach Moss? Because Zach Moss is actually really valuable in Dynasty, whereas a year ago you're thinking, well, this guy's completely cooked. So and then Dynasty, you're constantly doing this exercise where you're churning the back end of your roster with high upside players like RB3s, like what we're talking about. And I'm going to mention a few more names. I'll just say it. Isaiah Davis is the RB3, according to a lot of people with the Jets, and the Jets vastly upgraded their offensive line. I get it. God forbid if something happens to Breece Hall. Braylon Allen looks like Superman right now, but Isaiah Davis, I think, is a stash, and he's currently rostered in 29% of sleeper leagues.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. That's a good why. Yeah, I mean, but now the only trepidation I have there is that Abanikanda made the roster.
Okay.
So for some reason, if Breece Hall and Braylon Allen both were unavailable, again, who knows, right? But I like it, right? Why not Isaiah Davis? They drafted him. They didn't draft, I mean, Abanikanda barely made the roster. I mean, they knew who Israel Abanikanda was, and they still drafted the guy. So I do like that pick. I have Isaiah Davis. And when I was just sitting there in the 5th round, a lot of rookie draft, he was the guy I clicked. I would like Braylon Allen in 3, Isaiah Davis in 5 was a strategy.
And Matt, you want to, or no? Okay. Sorry. I thought I heard Matt about ready to speak.
How about Cam Akers? Could he be this year's Zach Moss?
Yes.
There you go.
I had just thought about that.
Yeah. Good.
I just thought about that, and I was getting ready to say, like, as long as we're talking about really gross running backs,
right? I mean, he's kind of in the same situation, right? Like left for dead. Nobody wants him. He was thought of as like a desirable prospect at one point. Akers probably had more hype on him than Zach Moss ever had, but now he's in a situation with a running back ahead of him that's, nobody's inspired by Joe Mixon.
Sucks so much too.
Oh yeah, but I mean, Akers is listed as the RB2. It's like that ship has sailed. Can he push Joe Mixon out of the way now is the question.
Yeah, I mean, historically, if we give Joe Mixon that Cincinnati usage, we're leaving about 30 to 35% of generally 25 to 30% of the work to be had. That's still a fairly significant share of opportunity. Maybe not fantasy relevant week over week opportunity, but if Cam Akers starts, continues to do what he's done this preseason, what we do know about Joe Mixon is that he's never been flashy with his touches. So we're looking at a situation where he's not an incumbent back anymore. He's not a staple to that roster. He's a new guy. and getting a little older, hasn't been, relatively efficient on touches. So Cam Akers has that stable handcuff ability as an RB2, but as much as I love Joe Mixon and have been pretty overweight on him, I got to look at that flip side and see the reality of Cam Akers taking 3 carries for 33 yards. And all of a sudden that role just grows a little bit more. And we have a Zeke Pollard situation on our hands in Houston.
He looked good in the preseason too. Akers. He didn't look bad to me. He looked like he was fine.
He had that double spin move. That was really awesome.
That was the Madden juke button. Not juke button. What's the spin button in Madden?
Circle.
Circle.
Depending on what you're playing on.
Circle. B. Isn't B the equivalent in Xbox?
For Xbox losers.
Oh, Jesus.
Is Xbox versus PlayStation, is that the same as like iPhone versus Android? Like, is there...
No, I would actually say that it's more like PC versus console is like iPhone versus Android.
Fair.
But the PC should be Apple, but it's Android just because there's less people on it, but it is technically the better product. But it is kind of like that, but there's like a bigger war of PC
versus console. I got it. That makes sense. That does make sense. We digress.
Gotcha. Yeah, it is funny, like having conversations with people. It's a pretty good icebreaker, but it is kind of funny, like the war between the Android people and the iPhone. How there's those two sects of people. But anyway.
Yeah, it's like people are nuts with that stuff. Like
I know.
I mean, and I feel like the more nutty people are the iPhone people. I mean, Android, I can care less. I mean, I like my, but the Android people always fight back and they go, well, we had that 5 years ago. That's their big argument, right? They always say we had this 5 years ago when the iPhone says, but we got this.
Yeah, they say like all these usability features, but like in my eyes, it's like, okay, I look at my phone and I open my phone and I interact with my phone and it's just a better product to me. Like I get having a stance, but I do think the annoying thing is the green bubble, blue bubble.
That only annoys iPhone users though. It doesn't annoy
just like big media. It's all out to divide us. They could just make the damn bubble blue.
So what do you think Kamala Harris uses? No, I'm just kidding. Trump's definitely Android, right? Trump is definitely Android, and Kamala Harris is definitely iPhone.
Oh, yeah. I don't know.
What if you
attention to show, but like I feel like there's no way Trump's on an iPhone.
Kennedy's
not on an iPhone.
Kennedy's like Pixel.
Kennedy's on a Google Pixel, maybe a Nokia, like an old school Nokia.
Put in the comments what phone you think each presidential candidate uses. I mean, that's going to be talking about demonetization.
Absolutely.
We're gonna get your content suppressed by big.
Yeah, if you somehow have a buddy with a flip phone, I don't know how this is possible in the year 2024. But my buddy, he was the best man at my wedding. He knows a guy who has a flip phone. He's one of these people, and I guess whenever he sends him an emoji, like he's in a group text with them. So whenever he sends him an emoji, it's like this just huge download file that gets populated to his flip phone, and it pisses him off so much. And he says it's one of the funniest things that you could ever do. So
that's too good.
If you know somebody with a flip phone, just send him a bunch of emojis. So because that's what my buddy does. Anyway, one more stash for you. I don't know if this is a good one to go out on or not, but
the worse the better.
I actually have two.
Yeah, the worse the better. You always want to go out in a bad stash.
I got two better ones for you. So if you stink it up, don't worry.
Okay. We'll have to rename the title of this video 7 stashes to 37 stashes. It's good. The more the merrier. But what about Sean Tucker?
Yep.
Sean Tucker, 30%. He's owned in 30%. Rashad White and Bucky Irving are in front of him. We like the profile. He caught 36 passes in his final season at Syracuse. I think it's a fine stash. And last but not least for me, and I'll be done after this one, because this is a truly sick cut. Jordan Mims from New Orleans.
I love it. I actually, I saw your list, and I put Mims on, then I threw him off the list because you can get him. I even had trouble squeezing him on a 30 deep, but I'm fine. Like I cut Kadarius Toney for him. I thought that was a reasonable ad drop.
Before he got cut or after he got cut?
No, like today or 2 days ago.
Yeah.
No, and Seth is always the person we can rely on for like these deep cut sicko candidates.
That was good.
To close it out with the yin to the yang on the lower roster players to be stashing. Jacob Cowing's been a quiet name. That's all I'm saying is we have not seen the guy who shot Ricky Pearsall in the chest and Jacob Cowing in the same room at the same time. It's we don't know. We don't know. But what we do know is that Jacob Cowing is right behind Juwan Jennings for that slot wide receiver role. He's had a really good camp. Beat reporters were saying that, even before the injury that he was out playing Pearsall and he was getting the playbook. He's got otherworldly college metrics, has that path in an incredible offense. Worth seeing what that development looks like if you're into a more long-term stash. And same thing with Malik Washington. Odell Beckham is injured. He's going to be starting the season unavailable for the Dolphins. That puts Malik Washington a stone's throw away from the starting slot role, which I don't necessarily think Braxton Berrios is gonna keep hold of for very long. Malik Washington's been kind of surging the last few days in camp, and those are two guys that I was in on in rookie drafts. And as these roster cuts have come through in medium deep to deeper leagues, if they're not on a roster, they obviously need to be soon.
Would you cut Beckham for Malik Washington?
Yes.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yep. I think that's a good call.